In the heart of Thailand, a land of gilded temples and age-old spiritual traditions, a scandal has emerged that has shaken the nation's moral and religious foundations to the core. It's a story not of crime in dark alleyways or corruption in boardrooms, but one that has, well, slithered into the sanctum of the sacred, the monkhood. In a country where Buddhism is more than just religion, where it is culture, identity, and daily rhythm, the fall of monks isn't just news, it's an earthquake of faith. It began quietly. A respected abbot in Bangkok vanished without explanation. His followers were confused, temple devotees whispered. Why would a revered spiritual leader abandon his calling overnight? Soon the truth began to surface, and honestly, it was darker than anyone had imagined. A web of sexual manipulation, betrayal, and blackmail was unraveling. And at the center of it all stood a woman no one had ever expected to wield such power over Thailand's most revered figures. Her name is Wilawan M. Sawat, known to some as Miss Golf. In her mid-30s, she lived a life of surprising luxury in Nonthaburi, just north of Bangkok. But this wasn't luxury born from inheritance or business. It was, authorities claim, funded by silence. The bought silence of monks too afraid to face the consequences of their forbidden desires. Wilawan had lured them, at least 9 senior monks, including abbots, into sexual relationships. She didn't just seduce them, she filmed them. 80,000 photos and videos were discovered, on her phone, on her laptop, in cloud storage, all showing the most intimate and shocking images of monks in acts that shattered their vows of celibacy. Monks who had spent decades building reputations of spiritual purity, now caught in moments of raw, physical exposure. These weren't accidents. This was a carefully designed trap, a machine of seduction and extortion. What followed was a pattern that was as profitable as it was devastating. Once Wilawan had the evidence, she would begin the squeeze. The threats were subtle at first. Payments were requested, but those who refused to comply were reminded. The videos existed, and they would be shared. Monks who panicked sent her money. Some emptied temple coffers, others borrowed from friends and family. One even handed over a car, all to avoid the disgrace that now seemed inevitable. Over 3 years, Wilawan amassed an empire of secrecy. Nearly $12 million flowed through her accounts, not invested, not hidden, spent lavishly on shopping, gambling, illegal online casinos, expensive cars. The money wasn't the only thing that disappeared. It was the image of spiritual invincibility that these monks had wrapped themselves in for decades, shattered with every click of a camera, with every transaction made to buy silence. Some monks, when confronted, confessed. One claimed he had been in a long-term relationship with her. Another said he truly believed she loved him, until she began seeing another monk behind his back. When he confronted her, the blackmail began. Another monk was told he had fathered her child. She demanded more than 7 million baht from him, a price for silence. But when he hesitated, the pressure turned public. He left the monkhood and disappeared. And then came the most staggering part of it all. This wasn't a fringe scandal. This wasn't hidden in the shadows of forgotten monasteries. These were high-ranking monks, men with enormous influence, senior abbots, religious celebrities, now forced to step down, disrobed, exiled from temples that once worshipped them. Thailand watched as once sacred men, draped in orange robes, were stripped of their titles, reputations, and dignity. The country exploded with reactions. Shock, of course, but also anger, betrayal, and confusion. How could monks, guardians of virtue, discipline, and purity, fall so far? How did no one see this coming? And perhaps more dangerously, how many others were hiding similar sins? The Thai Senate responded swiftly, proposing new laws, including criminal charges for women who engage in sexual acts with monks. But that proposal triggered a firestorm of its own. Critics accused lawmakers of misogyny, Was the woman solely to blame? Should monks not be held responsible for their actions? Are they not human, but also accountable for their decisions, their breaking of vows? The debate divided the nation. On one side were the traditionalists calling for stricter rules and punishments to protect the sanctity of monkhood. On the other were reformists, those who argued that the real problem wasn't women, but the lack of transparency, oversight, and accountability within the Sangha itself. Temples had become too powerful, they said, too wealthy, too untouchable. And there is truth in that. Temples in Thailand receive enormous donations, sometimes more than corporate entities. Some operate with little to no financial scrutiny. Senior monks control vast assets, and with power comes temptation. For some, it came in the form of gold, for others in the form of flesh. Wilawan, now behind bars, awaits trial. Her face, once unknown, is now plastered across tabloids, news networks, and social media. She claims she is a victim too, manipulated by monks who wanted what they couldn't publicly admit. She has not apologized. She has shown little remorse. In her own twisted way, she may see herself not as a predator, but as someone who simply exposed the hypocrisy of those who claim to be pure. But the public isn't sure what to believe. Is she a cunning criminal, or maybe a mirror reflecting the suppressed desires of men who hid behind religious robes? The lines are, really blurry. The truth, perhaps, lies somewhere in the middle. Temples that once overflowed with worshippers are now, quieter. Devotees look at monks differently. There's definitely suspicion in the air. The orange robes, once untouchable, now seem stained. Not just by this one woman, but by the silence that allowed her to flourish. Because this wasn't a one-time act. This was a system, a pattern, a calculated scheme that preyed not just on individual monks, but on the very image of Buddhism in Thailand. The idea that spiritual leaders could fall prey to desire isn't new, but the scale of this scandal has left a scar, one that may honestly take years to heal. And maybe that's the painful but necessary truth, that behind the chants and incense, behind the statues and teachings, monks are human, fallible, tempted, broken sometimes. The danger lies not in their humanity, but in pretending there's something more. That pretense, after all, is what allowed a woman like Wilawan to rise, to infiltrate, to control, and finally, to destroy. In the months to come, there will be trials, there will be laws, there will be reforms, background checks, financial audits, maybe even new rules governing how monks interact with the public, especially online. But the real change won't come from a courtroom. It will come from reflection, from hard questions, from the courage to admit that purity must be earned and protected, not assumed. Thailand now stands at a crossroads. One road leads back to silence, the other leads through fire, toward a reformed, accountable, and transparent monkhood. The choice won't be easy, but after what the world has seen, it might be the only path left to walk. If you found this story shocking, eye-opening, or even unsettling, don't let it fade away in silence. Share this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and let your voice be part of the conversation. What do you think? Is this scandal the fault of one woman or a system long overdue for change? Subscribe for more untold stories, exposed truths, and the headlines they don't want you to hear. Because in a world full of whispers, we tell it loud,